All right, boys and girls, today we're gonna have some fun and we're gonna be drawing a sliced cake. I wonder how many of you love cake. I love it. My favorite flavor has gotta be chocolate. And we're inspired by the artist Wayne Thiebaud because he loved to draw and paint delicious sweet treats. So I thought it'd be fun today if we drew ourselves a sliced layered cake. So this one could be a little challenging with the drawing and the coloring, but I know you guys are gonna be just fine. You guys are already talented, and as long as you follow the steps, you're gonna be just fine. So let's draw a sliced cake together. So we want this to look 3D. That means three-dimensional. So we're gonna be drawing lots of shapes that we're gonna transform into forms. Forms are 3D shapes. So let's get started. So I have my sketchbook opened and I love using the back of pages, even if I can see tons of Sharpie bleeding through. I don't mind because I'm gonna color right over it. And hopefully my colors will cover up all my Sharpie on the back. So I have my landscape style. If you wanted to draw a portrait style, that's fine. You could draw a really tall cake or even a big wedding cake if you want to. But I'm just gonna make mine a simple 3-layer cake, and then I'm gonna add lots of detail to it. So let's get started. So I'm gonna start at the top of my page and I'm gonna draw an oval. Okay, now we know cakes are not oval, but when you look at them at a certain way, they appear to be oval. So this is how I'm gonna make a cylinder that's gonna end up being the shape of my cake. So I'm gonna take my pencil, because pencil is always great to start with, and I'm gonna draw an oval. Sometimes I draw it a few times just to get that shaped out. So now I have a nice oval. It's about the size of my 4 fingers, spread apart a little bit. Now I'm gonna go down and almost in the middle of the page, I'm gonna draw a second oval, the same size and the same width, just down a little bit. So I'm gonna go down and draw a second oval. Okay, now this one's a little bit too big. I can erase it and fix that. Okay, so now I have 1 oval and 2. It looks like a big figure 8. It looks like an 8 to you, that means you're doing it right. If it's a little bit overlapping too, that's fine as well. All right, so now we're gonna transform these 2 ovals into a cylinder. And a cylinder is just like this canister here. It is 3-dimensional, so it has a top, sides, and a bottom. So we're gonna try to make our cake look like a cylinder. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna draw a straight line from the edge, the outermost edge of my oval. That means as far as it will go, it's gonna go straight down and it's gonna meet the second edge, just like that. Then I'm gonna go all the way opposite to the other side and I'm gonna do the same thing. Go straight down. So now I'm starting to get my cylinder. All right, now I got my eraser handy, and you might have one on the back of your pencil or one handy, and I'm gonna erase half of this bottom oval. So the half I'm going to erase is the top half. And what that does is it makes our cake or our cylinder whole now. It doesn't look like it's been chopped up. Kind of looks like a wheel of cheese, and that's what we want. All right, so before we add our slice, we're gonna add, well, actually, you know what? Let's do the slice first, and then we'll add our plate last, okay? So let's go ahead and add our slice. Looks like we took a big old slice out of it and already ate it, or maybe we're getting ready to. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna mark the center of this oval. So I'm gonna find the center this way, up and down, and the center this way. And I'm just gonna mark it with a little dot. So there's the center of my oval. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the center of this oval. So I'm gonna go in half this way and half that way. So there's my two centers. And I'm gonna connect those two dots with a straight line down, just like that. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is go to my top dot and I'm gonna draw two diagonal lines to the first edge of my first oval. So 1 and 2. Looks kind of like an arrow pointing up. Now where my line that I just drew, where it meets our oval, I'm going to go straight down to the bottom of the second oval. So just like this. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So where this meets, I'm going to go straight down. Just like that. Now I'm going to go to my second dot and I'm going to draw a diagonal line. This time I'm going to match it to my lines that I just drew. So 1 and 2. Just like that. Now I'm going to darken up some lines, the ones I want to keep, because now I'm going to do some erasing again. So this time I'm going to erase the bottom section, almost the whole bottom, just a part of it, of my cake. So now it looks like it's been sliced. And then I'm going to erase part of the bottom of my top circle. So I'm going to erase the same amount that I erased at the bottom. And now I have a sliced cake. It kind of looks like a piece of cheese right now. Now I'm going to add my layers. So this might look hard, but it's actually pretty simple. So this is what it's going to make it look like a cake, is the icing in between. Now you can add as many layers as you want to. A simple cake would just have 2 layers, 1 and 2, but I'm going to add 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down this line and I'm going to kind of mark a third and then another third. So 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. And I'm going to do the same thing down this side. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. And this is just kind of little guidelines to help me know where my icing is going to go. And now I'm going to connect my lines with 2 lines that connect them real close together. And that's where my icing is going to be. And then I just match it on this side. So I just make the same lines, match them up the best I can. And now I have a sliced cake. Oh my gosh, it looks so delish. All right, did you know that when you draw or paint or sculpt an object, it's called a still life? So now you know what a portrait is, a picture of a person. You know what a landscape is, a picture of the outside. And now you know what a still life is. It's a picture of an object. So what we're creating today is a still life of a cut piece of cake. So that's what we're going to draw now. So we're actually also going to draw what it's sitting on. We don't want it to sit on our countertop or floating in space. We want to add a plate. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to draw the rest of a oval that's going to wrap around my plate, or my cake. I'm sorry, my cake, yes. So if you have to draw it through your cake to kind of get the whole oval, you can. So maybe that's what I'll do. We can always erase later. I'll just do light lines to start with. And then when I'm happy with it, I'll draw a dark line. Okay. So there's my plate, and if you want to add a rim to it, you can. You can add designs on the plate. I mean, it's completely up to you. You can go crazy. All right. Last thing we're gonna draw before we start to add color is the horizon line. You thought horizon line only existed in landscapes. Nope, it exists in a still life too. This time, instead of separating the sky from the ground, this will separate the wall from the table. So if you have a ruler, this would be great. If you don't have one, you can look around your space for anything that has a straight edge. And if you can't find anything, you can just draw it by hand, okay? All right, so if you have a ruler, anything straight, you can add your line. This is called the horizon line. It's gonna separate the wall from the table. Now, I made a mistake. I put my line down too far and it looks a little silly. So I'm gonna go up past the plate. I have to move my clip here. And I'm gonna go about halfway from the top of my cake to the bottom. And then I'm gonna draw my horizon line there. So that way it looks like the whole cake is on a table. And then you got the wall behind it. So there's my finished drawing. And all I have left to do is add color. Now, Wayne Thiebaud was very well known for all of his use of all those bright colors. So there is no color that is off limits. You may color your cake any way you like. And what I'm gonna do is whatever I have on one side, I'm gonna match it on the other. Once I have my cake colored in, then I'm gonna start to add value. And I'm gonna show you how to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my first layer of color. So when I am coloring, I'm not gonna color in very dark. I'm gonna color in just kind of normal pressure, because my last layer is gonna be when I go back over with dark pressure and I can add my dark values. So now I get to pick my colors. I don't know what kind of color I'm gonna pick. Maybe I will pick, I'm sure you're gonna be shocked, but maybe I will pick orange. And I don't know what color we'll go with orange. Let's see, let's go with yellow. So I'm gonna pick yellow and orange for my cake. And then I'm gonna pick purple for my table and maybe blue for my wall. So now you're gonna see me add color. Boys and girls, so I have my first layer of color down. It's a little bit uneven and splotchy, but that's gonna change because I'm gonna add a second layer, but this time I'm gonna add some value on top of it. That means some spots will be light and some will be dark. The reason why we add value is because we're dealing with a 3D object. So this object, we will see all sides. So we're gonna add some value now. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the inside part of our cake. That's the easiest place to start. And then we'll start building color from there. So what I'm going to do is, since I'm using color pencils, I'm gonna try to find darker colors of each color that I used. So I'm gonna start with orange. And I'm gonna look at my color pencil bin to see if I can find either a darker orange, or I could also use orange's darker neighbor, which is red. So I'm going to use this as a darker version of orange. Yellow, I'm going to try to find a darker version of yellow. So I go in my color pencil bin, and I'm just trying to find a color that is darker. Or what I could use is its darker neighbor, which is orange. So I might use a light orange to darken my yellow. Pink is a value of red, so I might either add a darker pink, which I think is what I might add, or I might even go to red. So I might use another color for that. Blue, I just find a darker blue. And purple, I either find a darker purple or I can go with black. All right, which I might do that. I might go with black for my darker purple. And what I'm gonna do is start to darken. Now, if you don't have darker versions, what you could do is you could press down as hard as you can to get the darker version of that color. So I'm gonna try that first to see if I can make this side, the right side, much darker than the left. So I'm gonna go ahead and try darkening it with my first color pencil, which it doesn't darken very much, just a little bit. So now I'm gonna try to darken it with my next pencil. So now I used my light orange, and I'm gonna start by pressing down a little light, and then I'm gonna add more pressure. That means I'm gonna press down harder as I go. Now, once you start adding that second layer of color, it's really gonna start to look really good and nice. All right, notice it's already starting to get darker. And this side is not as even, so I'm gonna kind of add a second light layer on top of that. Now I still feel like my yellow is still too light on my right side, so I might even add the orange on top. This time I'm gonna go very light, barely touching the page, and just darken it just a tiny bit, just to get it nice and dark. Now you can start to see the values. All right, now I'm gonna start to do this with my orange because we have icing here. So I'm gonna go to my original orange first. Let's start with that. Try to darken that up as much as I can. All right, it's okay if it's not an even stripe because remember it is icing. And then over here, I'm just gonna even it out with my pressure. All right, and then I'm gonna darken it with some red. This is like dark orange, but I might even go with red on top. See if I can find some red. There we go. Darken it with some red. There we go. All right, so now we have the right side that is a little bit darker than the left. Okay. Still looks too light. I think I might darken it even more. Now the darkest value you can find is of course black. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna take my darkest value and I'm gonna start at the edge and then I'm gonna lighten up my pressure till about the middle. It goes from dark to light. Now the great thing about color pencil is if you make a mistake, you can erase it some. So I can lighten it back up with some erasing. And I can always add a little bit of yellow just to make it a little bit lighter. So it's just kind of playing around, light to dark to light, back and forth. until I get it just where I want it. All right, so now I have the sides of my cake done. Now I'm gonna do the top. I'm just gonna add a second layer. Now I want this to stay light because I'm imagining the light shining down on the top of my cake, so I'm barely touching the page. So now we're gonna add some shadows below our cake because everything casts a shadow, especially when it's 3D. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna pick my original color, which is pink, and I'm gonna darken it. And then if I can't darken it enough, I'll pick a darker version, okay? So the first place it's gonna get dark is right below the cake itself. All right, so now I'm gonna add some more shadows to my piece. So dark is going this direction, so I'm gonna add a little bit of dark going here too. Boys and girls, so my sliced cake is all finished. I could, of course, keep adding more and more layers on top, but I think it turned out really awesome. So I know shading can be very challenging, but just do your best. The more practice, the better you'll get. And I hope you guys had fun. All right, see you next time.